You know, I love black and white films, and I don't really shoot in black and white that much. And I often question why I don't do that. I wonder if I love these movies so much, why don't I shoot in black and white? And, I shoot sometimes in black and white, but I also always have this question like, if I shoot in black and white, should I shoot in log? Or should I be using a black and white color profile, picture profile in the camera? I got the Panasonic S5. It's got numerous black and white picture profiles that look really good, but I always shoot in log because, I know that I get the most dynamic range. And then I can, mess with my contrast and get the shot to look the way I want it to look, and then I could just desaturate it. And I've always felt like that would be the best way to go, but I don't really have enough experience doing that. So I can't really answer that question. And, it's one thing to like ask people if that's the right thing to do or which way to go or whatever, but you really have to do it yourself to get an idea of what works and what doesn't work. And you also have to kind of question, like, why are you shooting black and white to begin with? Like, what's the point? It's got to have something to do with the story. I mean, I suppose it could just be because it aesthetically looks nice, but I mean, when you're shooting with color, and if you're a filmmaker who's really intentional about your work, you know that color means a lot to the story. Like if you watch The Godfather, or, if you watch, any major film has kind of a color palette that goes with the movie, that goes with the story. Goodfellas is a good example too. It's kind of like got a maroon vibe to it, throughout the whole film. I believe The Godfather is the same, and I don't know if that represents blood or loyalty or, the moodiness of it. I don't know why they chose it, but it just works. Like if everybody was wearing yellow, or if everybody was wearing just black, then why not just shoot in black and white? Although you do get colors to pop through. But in my opinion, you should shoot black and white because it fits the story. It's the vibe. It's the feeling that you're trying to put across. I watched a video recently with Roger Deakins, was talking about how he shoots his still photography in black and white because he said the color distracts him from what he's trying to convey. The story he's trying to tell with his still photography. But when it comes to filmmaking, he shoots in color. And I found that really interesting because why is a moving image not distracting with color, but a still image, color is distracting you? But that's how he feels. And, who's going to question Roger Deakins? He's an incredible artist. So I find that interesting. I love black and white films. I love old movies. I think that's part of what it is. I'm into like that old kind of grimy, gritty vibe. I guess it's kind of simple. And even when I shoot in color, if you notice, I keep it kind of muted. I don't like vibrant, crazy colors. I like to have less contrast than a lot of people use. I'm kind of going for a filmy look, Recently, the company Dehancer reached out to me and asked me to try their software. And, it's funny because I've always wanted to buy it, but it was just a little bit more expensive than what I wanted to pay, although I think it's totally worth it because I've kind of studied a lot of people's work who have used it. I decided not to work with them only because I didn't want to sign any kind of contract. It was just too much, like too many pages, too much there. And, but I'm going to buy Dehancer definitely, and I'm going to use it. And the reason I'm going to use it is because I like that kind of gritty look. That's why I'm shooting with an anamorphic lens right now. I'm using the Siri 24mm f2.8. And, I find it to have an old kind of feel to it. Anamorphic has a lot of imperfection to it. And that gives me more of what I'm personally looking for in the way I want to shoot and the way I want to tell stories. When I use the 20-60 kit lens, which is my only modern lens that I have a filter on it, like a filter to make it less sharp. I can't even think of the name of the filter right now because I hardly ever use that lens, but I know it's from the company Moment. And Moment makes these filters to kind of take the edge off, the sharpness of, you know, like a Cine Bloom filter or something like that. It takes the edge off. It makes it look more like a vintage lens, like an anamorphic lens, if I could go that far. So, yeah, but it is a question, like when you're shooting black and white, I don't know, you know, maybe somebody could answer me in the comments, like, would you use the color profile, a black and white profile, so you kind of know what you're getting in camera, or would you use still shoot in log? Because the thing about shooting in log is that I can see what I'm getting in camera, but I can't see what I'm getting if I desaturate it, if I just completely take all the saturation off. I mean, I suppose I could get a black and white LUT and put that in and use log. Maybe that would get me closer, but it's more about dynamic range, I think. I feel like if I'm not shooting in log, I'm losing a lot of the dynamic range, and I would prefer not to do that. So it's very, very interesting to me, but I personally think black and white is an emotional thing. I think that it's not necessarily the way you just want it to look for. I don't think you should be able to. I think if you're working with a director or a dramaturge or anybody, not so much a dramaturge, but a director, and definitely your producer if you have one, I think that you should be able to justify every decision that you make in making a film. And whether you're going color or black and white, or deciding on the colors that you're using, you should be able to justify why you're doing that. Like, what is the reason? What's your intention? What's your point? I had a great director while I was working on my play, Broke Wide Open, which was a 6-year journey. And I got to work with the same person for 6 years. And that was, I think, probably the biggest thing that I learned from him, the most important thing that I learned from him, which was, you know, he never told me to do anything. You know, he never even made a suggestion about anything other than he would ask me questions all the time and make me justify every single word in my script. And if he felt if he asked me a question and then I justified it with something that wasn't in the script, he might say to me, I think you should say that. And I realized that I was leaving things out that should have been in there, or maybe I had things in there that should have been taken out. But I ask myself those questions all the time now. Like, I carry his guidance with me all the time. His name's Stephen Bishop Seeley, and I carry that guidance with me all the time. You know, I make myself justify every decision that I make in my theater work and my filmmaking, whatever kind of script I'm writing. In any art form, in my photography, why am I taking this picture? What am I trying to say? What do I want the person who's receiving this art to get from me? Now, what they kind of perceive is going to be on them. It's going to come from their life experience, you know, who they are, how they look at the world. So they might get something completely different than what I intended. But I want to be bold and specific with my intentions with everything that I do, whether it's still photography or whether it's filmmaking. I just want to know what I'm doing. I don't want to be flying by the seat of my pants. I want to be sure of the exposition, the path of the story, where it starts, where it goes, and where it winds up, and what happens, you know, along the way, and why these things happen, and how the characters affect one another, where the characters were from, who they are in the present moment, where they might be headed. I want to be really specific about all that, and a lot of it is subtext. A lot of it I'm not saying out loud. I'm not saying specifically in the story, but it's in my head, so it informs everything that I write. It informs everything that I shoot, or everything that I will put on a stage. It informs lighting design. You know, like if I'm working with somebody doing lights, we're going to talk about the story. I don't want anybody contributing to anything that I do without understanding what I'm trying to say. You know, like if I'm having a conversation with you, I'm going to try to be as clear as possible in my messaging to you so we can have an intelligent conversation. And that doesn't mean that I have anything to do with your response. Your response is going to be your response, but I want you to respond based on what I actually mean. I don't want you to have any kind of misconception, or I don't want there to be a misunderstanding between us so that you don't know, you know, you're going to be responding all over the place and I'm going to be looking at you like, that's got nothing to do with what I was trying to say. Now, that still could happen. if I make a movie and you get something completely different from it than what I intended because of your life experience and who you are, that's fine. You know, because I also believe that once you finish something, once you complete a script, well, once you complete a work of art like a movie or a theater piece or whatever, and you share it with an audience, it's no longer yours. Now it's in the hands of the people who are kind enough to receive it. Pay tickets to go see it, stream it, whatever it is. Go to the movies, like whoever's watching your work, even if you're just in a poetry club spitting poems, it's not yours anymore. It's your offering to the world. You're giving something to somebody. And it's going to be something different to every person. But I guess the best you can do is to be as bold, like I said, as bold as possible and as specific as possible. So let me, just for this video's sake, let me change the shot a little bit and put a black and white picture profile on and see if it feels different to you. And then I'll finish the video. It looked like somebody was driving in here. I'm in like a place where I'm in the middle of nowhere. And so it would be weird for somebody to drive in here right now. That's why I keep looking around. I oftentimes find kind of shady, out of the way areas, and I'm always conscious that somebody could come in here and try to jack my shit. So I'm nervous about that sometimes, but I also like picking places like this. I actually rehearse in this place a lot down that way, and because it's a place where nobody bothers me. So anyway, let me change the shot real quick, and I'll put a black and white picture profile on, and we'll see if it makes a difference. Still going to be anamorphic. Still going to be the Panasonic S5, the Siri 24mm APS-C anamorphic lens, f2.8 and a 1.33 squeeze factor. And yeah, also while I'm at it, I'm using the Holy Landmark Max. I like it a little bit better because I painted the logo out, so it's just all black, but I still hate the windscreen, and it's too big. I would never use this in a movie. With YouTube videos, it's kind of good to use it because I could tell you what it is, because you're definitely going to see it, right? Like, there it is. So it's a Holy Landmark Max. I have the receiver on the camera. The audio is going directly into the camera, which is convenient. I don't have to sync the audio, which is ridiculous because it's so easy to sync audio, but I like because I don't have to have wires. Sometimes when I was using my lavalier mic with Zoom H1N, which is an external audio device, I would step on the cable or I would pull it out by accident. It's just kind of annoying. So I like having the opportunity to be wireless a little bit. So anyway, let me switch the shot and we'll see what it looks like. All right, so now this is a black and white picture profile. It's L monochrome in the Panasonic S5, and it's kind of moody and dark looking, at least in the monitor right now. And it's right out of camera. I'm not going to color correct this or color grade it or anything. I'm just going to use what the camera does, what the S5 does. And I'm shooting at f5.6, so should be, you know, kind of blurry in the background, but not that much. It's kind of really bright right now, which even though it's overcast, there's like a huge white light over my head, which kind of a bad time of day, so my eyes kind of look weird right now probably. But anyway, I guess my whole thing is, does it change the mood? You know, is the mood even something that comes into play if I'm not in the middle of a dramatic scene in a film? Like, I'm just making a YouTube video right now. I'm just talking to you about, you know, specifications and technical aspects of filmmaking. But, you know, what if I was talking, what if I was in like a heated moment with somebody, a disagreement? What if somebody just found out that I did something that can harm our family? You know, something that can hurt the person that I love the most in my life, and she's, you know, bringing it to the forefront, like just putting it out in the open, making me talk about it, confronting me with something that I didn't want to talk about. You know, what if I was in the middle of something like that? Would this feel more, you know, appropriate to something like that than shooting in color? I don't think it really makes a difference. I think, personally, I think it has a lot to do with exposure. I think it has a lot to do with composition, what's in the frame. I think it has a lot to do with what colors you choose. I think black and white can sometimes, in fact, be an easy way to go. Maybe black and white is a good way to keep the colors from distracting from the story, because all you have to deal with is contrast, exposure, composition, you know, like it kind of takes away a lot. You're not dealing with color grading, color correction, or anything like that. So it's really interesting, you know, an interesting kind of concept. I know that if I'm shooting in a picture profile like this, I don't quite have the dynamic range that I would have shooting in color and log. But I don't know, you know, like you know what? I just said that and I was talking out of the back of my head. Like, I don't even know if that's true. I'm assuming that using a color profile like this is not as good as the dynamic range that I'm getting from log in this camera. And it appears that way if I'm looking at the zebras in the monitor. But I don't even know if that's true. So let me get to the final angle here and finish this video. I think I'm going to get a black and white shot that's a little bit further away. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change this to f2.8 and I'm going to blur everything out. You're going to focus just on my face. And let's see if that feels different for you because, and then I'll do a final shot in black and white and the same shot in color. We'll see what that feels like. So let me switch this to f2.8. I'm just going to do it right here in the camera. Hold it. So this is the fastest aperture that this lens will allow. And I think that's around the same exposure that I had. And now the background is really blurred out. Now, this is a 24 millimeter f2.8. My 35 millimeter is an f1.8 and my 75 millimeter is an f1.8. So those would look even more dramatic, but I'm pretty close to the lens because as you can see, I can mess with the ND filter right here. Like I'm not far away from this lens. The 35 millimeter Siri anamorphic lens and the 75 millimeter anamorphic, I got to be like 2.5 to 3 feet away from the lens, so I wouldn't be able to do this. But this is only good for a YouTube video. Like who needs, you know, you don't really need to do this. But it is cool to be able to get this close and get this kind of shot from an anamorphic lens. It's pretty unusual. So anyway, that's all of that. Let me change the angle. I'll go bigger. I'll do one in black and white, one in color. I'll say all the stuff that I say at the end of a video, and you can see how it looks different, which you like better, and what you think is more appropriate. And I think it's just good, you know, to think about, like I said before, what's your intention with shooting black and white or color? You know, why are you doing it, you know? I mean, again, if you're just making YouTube videos and you're comparing, then that's cool. Then that's your intention. But if you're telling a story, if you have a, you know, a narrative film or a documentary or something like that, you want to really think about, why am I doing this? What am I trying to say? You know, what's my point? How is black and white helping this story, or how is color helping this story? So let me set this up. I'll go down closer to where I rehearse and we'll finish this video up. So let's do that. All right, so since we are just coming off of black and white and I have the color profile set to black and white, I'm going to walk back here in black and white and see what you think and how this whole thing looks and how it feels. I mean, obviously right now, this would be kind of like an establishing shot or something like that. Down there at the end is where I do my rehearsing a lot. Obviously, I'm to the right of the bistro, the restaurant right there, and this is a big train station right here. And so, yeah, how does this feel to you? This is a bigger, wider shot. Again, it's a Siri 24 millimeter f2.8 anamorphic lens, and this is what something like this looks like in black and white. Why would you do this? Like, what would be your intention? What kind of story would drive you? You know, what kind of story could this move ahead in a more appropriate manner? And let me switch it back to color now. So let's see what that be looking like. All right. And now we are back to vlog. So we're back to color. And so how does this look to you? This is back to where we were at the beginning. Again, that's where I rehearsed down there. For teaching's sake, I'm shooting an f4 right now, just because we've shot an f5.6, we shot an f2.8, now we're shooting an f4. I shot the black and white right before this in f4 as well. So does this feel different to you? Why would you choose shooting in color as opposed to shooting in black and white for an establishing shot or a long shot like this. And would you even use a 24mm lens, which this is a 28mm equivalent, because to get the equivalency of an anamorphic lens and you're shooting in APS-C, it's 24mm, so APS-C will make it 36, and then you have to divide by 1.33, and that gets you to around 28mm. So anyway, how does it look to you? Why would you do this? I think the colors are muted and nice. I just have to put this in the proper color space when I get into DaVinci Resolve, and personally, I love the way this looks, but I also love black and white, and I've been considering shooting this movie in black and white. There's a black and white section in my last film, and this is the end for me. There's a whole black and white section by the ocean, and the black and white represents death. It represents a loss of life, a loss of a soul, a loss of a spirit, the loss of the desire to stay alive. And then the color is slowly introduced back into the film. If you noticed and you watched it, it's black and white, and then the colors get more vibrant as you get to the very end where there's more life. So if you haven't seen the movie, I kind of ruined a little bit for you right there, but the movie's been out, so. All right, I think I'm gonna finish now, so I guess I'm gonna say, please subscribe, and please hit the like button, and please consider joining my Patreon. That would be incredibly awesome of you. And yeah, this is fun, black and white, color. What up with that? Let me take my little, did you get your own little retractable stool yet? I have an affiliate link in the description. You could buy one for yourself. I have affiliate links for everything, for my cameras, for my lenses. So if you're interested in any of my gear, check it out. I got a couple of other affiliate links down there too. So yeah, I just did some, shameless promotion for myself. That's it. All right, bye.